I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call for the record. Mayor Lindsay is not here. Mayor Pro Tem Howe,
Here.
Councillor Crane,
Here.
Councillor Weeks,
Here.
and Councillor Humbert.
Here.
We have a quorum. You may proceed.
Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
It was Councillor Humbert.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Old business, item A, discussion, determination of workforce housing units to be placed in the fall of 2025 and spring 2026. Mr. Rocky.
Well, good morning, Mayor Pro Tem Howe, members of the council, Manager Weir, Clerk Strickland. I'm going to share my screen with the document that I've prepared. Can you see that okay, or do I need to enlarge it? Can you see it okay on the screen?
We can see it okay.
Okay, all right.
I can see the squares, I can't see what's in them.
Okay.
I think it's in your handout, right? Yeah, it is. It is. It's still small in your handout. Gotta get your magnifiers out.
Okay. So the purpose of this agenda item is to determine the number of homes that we can put up in 2025 for our workforce housing. And maybe determine how many we should be able to put up in 2026 in the spring. As you know, the project was called Workforce Housing 2025. The whole purpose was putting the 2025 in front was that we had a goal of setting all 30 homes up by October 30th of this year. And so as a result of us being delayed, we didn't get approval. You know, the stipulation in the grant was to not break ground, establish any contracts that were going to affect the property itself until after it was approved by Housing New Mexico and HUD, and go through a complete environmental study. Well, our environmental study, Dennis Engineering finished an environmental study on April 17th, which looked like we were estimating to start working on the infrastructure by June 1st. Well, that didn't happen. It took them over 2 months to get through the evaluation of the report from the evaluation study, which passed and everything, by the way. But we didn't get notification to move forward with the property until June 25th. So that set us way back. Now, they did tell us that we could backdate the contract to June 10th, but it didn't really help us as far as getting a head start. And then, of course, at that point, we did have some competing projects, you know, the balloon event and then the 4th of July event. And so here we are, mid-July. And so what I decided to do here was to bring up the 3 different scenarios of the situation that we're in right now. Should we continue on and force these 30 homes to be put in by the end of 2020, by October 25? Should we split them up, put partials, maybe a certain number of homes here in 2025 and the remainder have them delivered maybe in spring, May and June of 2026? Or should we put off all of the homes until May or June of 2026 and just work on the infrastructure and getting the lot completely prepared for next spring? Those are the 3 options. And so the first one I'm going to bring up here is is basically continuing on with putting the homes in October 2025. And so what I did is I brought up some risks. And from a project team perspective, if we were to try to put those homes all up this year, we might be competing with some other village projects. and some hard deadlines that could cause some deadlines. That was just one of the risks. Now, I have to tell you that the color codes that I chose are such that, I have to reduce this to see that. Red is high, and this is a probability, okay? If it's rated red, and from my own perspective, it's rated high as the probability of happening, yellow, medium, and green is low. So the project team risk there of competing with projects is yellow, which is a medium. The government, of course, that was already been done. The late notice, we got notified on June 25th. There's another risk under government, unknown contract details. The other thing you should know is that we got approval through an email to move forward with the project, but we have not received the contract yet. So even when I received notification by email that we can move forward, I kind of hesitated for a week because I was waiting for the contract. And then I later found out that the contract was going to happen for another 30 to 45 days. So then having a discussion with Director Epler and Manager Weir, we determined that we're going to go ahead and take that risk and maybe move forward on the project, that we would work out okay. So, we've kind of done that. But in the process of our approach here, we realized that we may not have enough time between now and September, because I think we speculated that we're going to get the homes delivered in September and then, finish them up in October. There was a risk that I put up there, which is in yellow, that maybe Director Epler and his team might not be able to get the infrastructure all completed for all 30 homes between now and the end of August. There's another risk that the 30 homes coming into Angel Fire in September might not have a place to sit on the property. If they get delivered and we're not finished with their pads, where are we going to put them? And that would, to me, it would look like a project failure to be able to not put them up on the property upon their delivery. And then there's another risk that was in red I put, which is 30 homes successfully installed on the property without pave and gutter. What's happening there?
It says the internet was unstable.
Okay. So it could be another risk that we get the homes in spring installed properly, but we wouldn't have pave and gutter. As you know, we can't really do pave and gutter any later than October. Even October is kind of iffy. So I was imagining all 30 homes installed on the property without pave and gutter, and what a muddy mess that would bring in the spring. To me, again, it registered as maybe a project failure. And then there was another possibility that we put the 30 homes installed on the property and maybe we don't have full occupancy. That could be another situation. We have all the homes installed there. And a question we need to ask, and I think, Dax and them are on the call. There's a question as to whether, we were going to be paying for these homes until we got occupancy, et cetera, et cetera. So, I'm going to turn this off here.
Really trying to
Oh,
get your attention, sorry.
Yeah, and then
Internet's-
we've got internet problems apparently.
yeah. So, don't know what to do here.
So,
It's
can
rough.
I ask a question while we're,
Sure.
We're still on, but it's iffy.
so the competing projects, since this was in the project list, what competing projects? Are there competing projects that are delayed that are then that would cause a fall on to this project?
It was a mild risk, okay, but I do know that we have events going on every week. I know that Director Epler and his team are usually involved in helping with those events, preparing parking lots or whatever, those kinds of things. That was just a
Kind of
possibility.
a generalization.
Yeah,
kind of,
yeah.
okay.
It's more of an issue later on, as I'll explain if I can get on here again. I apologize for the delay here.
Heard all your road graders are headed somewhere. We're watching them drive past as Rocky's looking something over.
Okay. All right. So here we are. So,
Yeah, for you.
sorry about that. Got it. Okay, so, another risk is under suppliers. Kit Carson Communication on electrical provisioning to the project. We didn't have a date when they were gonna do that. That was a yellow. I think we've got some pretty good information on that now, but all these things are just, outstanding questions that needed to have answers in order for Kirk to really continue moving forward with things. The suburban propane specifications, as you might be aware, we were gonna put those all in the setback area of the property, which is around the perimeter of the property. And upon speaking to the propane inspector for the state, he wasn't gonna approve that. He wanted the propane tanks to be buried 10 feet from the property line, an additional 10 feet away from each home. So we had to go back to engineering and have them redo the site plan, which you have in front of you. And I've highlighted where the propane tanks are in yellow. And so that was just another, it wasn't really a high level risk, but it was one to put in there. And then since then, I talked with sustainability partners and I basically gave them a commitment that this week we would come up with the number of homes that we were going to be able to go forward with. And how many we would be delayed for the spring. And upon talking with them, it seems like we're past the point to be able to order homes. And later on, I'll ask Dax and them to speak on this subject, but I just wanted to mention that was put in red because we may not have any options, but wait until we can get homes even put in here. So the other risk was GME Motion will not be able to fulfill partial order of the paving and gutter work. Because if that doesn't happen, of course, I mentioned earlier that was a high level risk, not having paving and gutter in there. So then I went to figure, okay, so that was trying to get all the homes by the 30th. So now I moved to maybe putting partial homes here in 2025 and the rest of them in the spring of 2026. A lot of the same risks are there, except there was a few additional ones. In that approach, it seemed like under the approach in the bottom in the red, any number of homes coming into Angel Fire in September, they still might not have pave and gutter. Even if we did 4, 5, 6 homes, there still may not be pave and gutter available for those homes. The other thing is there would be competing projects with hard deadlines in the following year in 2026, because as you know, our weather starts clearing up maybe in May, right? Maybe June. So we'd have to get our homes in there in May and June before 4th of July events, before the next year's balloon event. So that was another risk in splitting homes up in 2025 and 2026. Again, sustainability partners seems like they're already past the point to ensure orders get through their capital improvement for this year. And so at this point, Dax and Connor, I'd like you all to chip in and maybe explain to the council the situation that we're in attempting to try to get any homes in by October of this year.
Sure. Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Rocky, for that explanation. You're absolutely right. The challenge we have is in order to get the capital approved for these things, we have to have all of the contractual documents, the plans and everything laid out so that they can do their due diligence in reviewing everything. And so that we can get the homes ordered on time and delivered and things like that. And based on the timeline that it would take to do all of that before we could get capital out to start the construction on the homes, we're just past the time that it would take to be able to do all of that due diligence, make sure all the contracts are in place and reviewed, and so it would really be, not possible to get it done for things to be delivered this year and paid for. So that's the challenge we're running up against.
So Dax, I have a question. Is there a threshold as far as the number of homes that we could get delivered in October or in September?
Right now, it really looks like it, because we'd have to get through that entire process with all of the homes. We'd have to have kind of the entire plan laid out, even if only, just to make up numbers, let's say 5 of them were being delivered now and the rest in the spring. We'd have to understand the scope. We'd have to understand how all of those would need to be, how everything would need to be reviewed and approved, that the site work would be completed so that they weren't, sitting idle or anything like that, and get all of that completed. And then the deposit with the manufacturer and all that type of stuff. So based on what we're seeing, I don't think it would be possible, even if it was a small number, because we've got to go through the same scope of work for the entire amount to be able to even get a quantity for this year, and the rest delayed until next year.
We have another question, Dax. Elizabeth?
So Dax, you mentioned something about they having to do review and approval. Who is they?
So that's our capital source. So Sustainability Partners works with different capital providers, whether they be pension funds or private equity or things like that. We bring the projects to them, and they're the ones that fund it. So as we prepare all the documentation, the contracts, we get the site, the manufacturing specs, and all that type of stuff, and we present it to them. And they go through their investment council and review to make sure that it meets the requirements, their needs, all of that type of stuff. So they is the people that are providing the capital so that we can construct the infrastructure.
Would you state your name for the minutes, please?
Yes, it's Elizabeth Ricketson.
Thank you.
Mr.
Manager.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I would like to note that Ms. Ricketson is the chairman of the Workforce Housing Committee. It seems like at this point, the roadblock is the process that Sustainability Partners has to go through to obtain capital for the acquisition of the units. What I'd like to propose is that for the first units, so we now have approximately $3 million to spend on this project in grant money. And we've estimated that, there's going to be money that left over that we won't need for the infrastructure. We don't need $3 million to complete the infrastructure. And we were going to utilize that additional grant money to buy down units. So my proposal is, since the roadblock, and we have several roadblocks, but one of them is Sustainability Partners' time to bring us contracts. We bypass that and just buy the units ourselves and look at buying 5 to 6 units with our grant money directly, which would be the same effect as buying down the units from Sustainability Partners.
I think we could, but one of the big technical hurdles, and I appreciate all the hard work that's gone into this new site plan. The tank delay was kind of towards the end, but the curb and gutter is an integral part of the drainage on this lot. And so I guess that's the question is, the other big technical hurdle is, does it make sense to put any homes on this site before the curb and gutter is adequate?
I would like Director Epler to respond to that.
Councilor Crane, that's a really good point. But on the site plan, you'll see as you turn in off of Highway 434, past the Zebediah's property, and you see the first 6 units on the left, that area is not as impacted by drainage as when you make the left turn and head up south, where you have the detention ponds, the curb and gutter element, everything to manage the drainage. On my end, I feel that it's doable to place those that first cluster of homes on the left, because that area in particular is not as heavily impacted by drainage.
And how, just from a contract complexity perspective, so we would essentially be splitting the contract into 2, one of homes to be purchased directly by the village and another homes to be purchased through Sustainability Partners?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I'm not sure what you mean by splitting the contract. We would simply And I haven't had a chance to confer with the people from Sustainability Partners, and so I don't know what their perspective is on this. But we would simply be buying the first 5, and then we would be contracting with them for the rest of it. We would own the first 5, and they would own the next 25, and we would be leasing from them. And it's not a preferred way to move
Sure.
forward, but I'm just trying to figure out some way to get some units in there. And to be honest with you, Mayor Pro Tem and Council, if we got all 30 units in October, my concern is that many of those units are going to sit idle. We do have the demand to fill them eventually, but that's going to take time. People have leases that they're going to have to expire. People have other arrangements. They're going to have to move their kids potentially from one school district to another. And so I think all of those natural processes of people moving from one location to another, I think my estimate, it's going to take months. So actually for us to have the first 5 out there or 6, I'd even like to keep one unrented as a display unit, so we can bring people in that are interested and say, hey, here's what you're going to get. Because if we start pursuing 30 units all within, say, a 5 or 6 week period being installed, that process itself is going to be relatively chaotic. And I don't know how people are going to feel about renting a unit when all they've seen is pictures of it. They haven't walked into it. So I actually think there are some advantage to us to do the first 5 or 6 and buy them ourselves. That way that gives Sustainability Partners plenty of time to go through the process they need to go through. And we could, rent some and have one that I would recommend, that first one that we just hold it without renting it, so we can use it like, when you go into a new housing addition, they always build the first house and they don't sell it until the end.
Have a model.
Model home. So I think that might make sense. And then through the winter, we could use that model home to start lining people up so that people are ready to move in, and actually even do contracts with them and process all that paperwork from our end, so that come May, hopefully, the units are delivered and people are ready to move in and have a tighter schedule.
I think it's a fairly elegant solution to a technical and weather-based problem, I guess. In the order of operations here, is there anything we see? So I'm assuming obviously we wouldn't, those 6 homes, because of their spot, the curb and gutter would not need to be done, but the infrastructure is going to still have to be done, the overhead power, like there's still several things that have to be done before a C of O could happen, even on those partial count, right?
That is correct. And again, I think Director Epler is the individual that could properly explain what he would go through in order to assure that that got accomplished.
Yeah, so ideally we would want all of the underground infrastructure put in throughout the whole project. The water service does come from Highway 434, and sewer service tie-in does go to Highway 434. Was pleased to find out that the overhead line that's over across the south side of the property is the viable source for the whole subdivision. So we won't be dealing with the tying into the main line right there off of 434. It's a good thing, but what it means is all the power infrastructure from the south end will need to go all the way towards where we're going to put the first units. But so yeah, all the underground utilities will still be put in. Now we do have the ability to run the water just as far as those initial units, and have the sewer go just from those initial units. But I do feel that by winter we can have all of the underground utilities in place. short of the propane.
Director Epler, this is Rocky. Putting those utilities in for those first 5, does that negatively impact next spring, putting in the other utilities and moving homes past those 5 units into the back parts of the property?
No, it's all underground.
Yeah, sorry.
Yes.
It's Elizabeth Rickinson again. I like the idea of getting all of the, if you care about my opinion, I like the idea of getting all of the infrastructure done this year. Not doing partial, with the exception of maybe like the propane tanks. But if we have it in the schedule as a project and we had plans for it and we can spend that money, then getting all that done then sets us up for success in getting a whole bunch of units delivered next year. And, you know, because you wouldn't want that stuff then to be delayed next year because of other projects and weather and.
So at this point, it sounds like there is no viable option, both in technical or in funding, to set all the homes in 25. That option is passed. So our choices are down to take this initial 5 or 6 homes in 25. Obviously, there's some contract details that are going to have to get worked out with sustainability partners to scope that out with them. I guess I'd like to hear from them. I know you're hearing this for the first time, but anybody from sustainability, do you see any major problems that strategy would cause on your end?
If I'm understanding correctly, I don't think there would be any issues. It sounds like the 5 proposed would be paid for by the city. They would be kind of in a section a little bit different that doesn't have the same effect of the potential drainage work that needs to be done. And so that those would be completed now, and then in the spring, the portion of the assets that would be funded by sustainability partners would be kind of in a slightly separate location, and all of that site prep work would be completed later or completed then for the delivery of the spring houses, and that so it'd be kind of it's all one big development, almost like a separate separate areas where SP would be funding the construction in one, and the city would fund in this year the construction in the other. Is that correct?
It is, and I think to Manager Greer's point, the intention all along was for 30 units, and whatever grant monies we had left over, we're going to go into a fund to essentially buy down rates for the entirety. In this scenario, we would be stripping 5 or 6 units and paying for them in cash in the front end, and then financing the balance with you. But we would complete all of the underground work. And if I misunderstood, Director Epler, I apologize. The intention would be for us to complete all of the underground work in 2025, set 5 or 6 units that are wholly owned by the village in 2025, and then circle back where appropriate in spring of 2026 to finance and set the remainder of the unit through sustainability partners. Is that essentially correct?
So, Kurt, I don't know, I don't want to speak for you, but my understanding, Councilman Crane, is that our goal would be to do all that we could this year for the utilities underground. But there is the option, if something else came up, that we could run the water and sewer just far enough to get to these 5 units and cap it, and then finish it next spring if we had to. So there are 2 options. The goal would be to finish the underground work this year. But if we weren't able to, we really only need to complete the underground work to the point where these 5 or 6 units are going to be located. And we could cap it at that point. And Director Epler, I know there's some concerns about the power lines, because the power lines are not buried as deep as the water and sewer lines, and you always want to bury your deepest utility first. So that is something that Director Epler has contemplated. He can probably speak better to it. But there are a couple of options there that give us a little bit of wiggle room if we proceed with the 6-unit option. Director Epler?
Yeah, that's correct. I did want to say that if necessary, we could just supply those first houses and cap them. But I'm not as concerned about that with weather because, in a sense, we'll probably have till late November to be able to do all the underground utility work. So I would prefer to push forward with getting all of the underground infrastructure in, but to kind of, I guess, have that in our back pocket if something came up where if we didn't think that was viable. We can continue with utility work later into the fall. It's having it to the point by early October where all infrastructure is in, all house sites are ready. That's we see that that's not achievable right now. It's not I don't see it as it wouldn't be my first goal to say, okay, we're just going to go in and run the water and sewer up to this point, bring the power around and boom, we're ready to go. I would prefer to move forward completely with the underground utilities and try to get, particularly the main lines that are going to be under the road, get all of them in. We just need to get them in this fall. Because we need to understand, putting these house deliveries off till spring doesn't necessarily mean we're going to be ready to start setting houses the 1st of May. That's a risk we're taking with weather, and to understand that when we have real winters, construction really doesn't fully get kicked back off sometimes until mid-May. So, we're at the mercy of Mother Nature, but we've used the term risk a lot, and it's how we want to manage that risk and weigh those risks. I want to move forward where if it ends up being mid-May or end of May, whenever the houses are going to be delivered, I would like to have everything ready for them at that time. But again, we're at the mercy of weather, and also what kind of continuity we can establish in the work. Being that we're doing some all of this in-house, if this project is going to remain the main focus, we have to take other projects that are slated into consideration and how their timelines are going to be affected. But that prioritization of these projects is ultimately up to council. I would, in a perfect world, I could get on this job and it would be all I had to do and just move forward and get a lot done. But again, I'm sorry I'm getting kind of off on a rant here, but we need to understand that there's a potential that we're not going to have these house sites ready for as soon as the snow melts. We can start setting houses. One of the things that's going to determine that is the sooner we get started on this work, the sooner we know start to get a feel for how much we're going to get done this fall. But if we do decide to go with the first 6 homes, for instance, obviously we need to ensure that we have everything we need done for those first 6 homes first, and then hopefully have the opportunity to prepare as many and hopefully all of the house sites for delivery as early as possible in the spring.
Director Epler, I have a couple of questions on that. I totally can understand the weather conditions. Do you require the report back from the geotechnical assessment to be able to complete the pads areas for the homes, for the 5 homes that we planned on for this year?
Well, the geotechnical assessment was ordered as part of the environmental study.
And it is,
The engineer, the engineering firm did not. Go ahead.
yeah, so
Sorry.
so you're not dependent on that report.
I don't know. The geotechnical survey that was done, to my knowledge, none of that information comes into play as far as the design of the building sites. I do want to add, I don't have a clear design on what the building sites consist of. Are they to be put on engineered fill? What type of foundation they have? There's some things that have not been decided on. But basically, the geotechnical survey, they did some boreholes. The engineer felt that in the environmental study, the main need for the request for a geotechnical survey was to determine if there is groundwater present. But as far as the playing a part in the design of each individual house sites, I don't think it's a factor in that. And I'll use as an example that, in comparison, the geotechnical survey that we did for the fire station was to determine if the soils were inadequate and if it required engineered fill, and what the recommendation was for engineered fill. Where the foundation, footings, slab, flat work, everything sets on. That is the geotechnical survey for the workforce housing is not being used in that manner by our engineer. Does that make sense?
Yes, very much. Thank you, sir. I have another question. In the 25 homes that are remaining for the spring and summer of 2026, do you foresee any competing projects? I guess I looked at this year with the balloon event and the 4th of July events and how involved your team was with that. Do you anticipate having that as a kind of a restriction on how soon we can get the homes all in next year?
No. Well, the events for tourism, I don't see as being a factor moving forward. We have the event center ready, and what we're going to do for next balloons over Angel Fire is not going to happen till next spring, and it's very minor. And it's a very important project that could come into play where we're going to find ourselves working on two projects at the same time, is the over excavation and prepping of the site for the new fire station. Because I know it's Chief Vance's hope to be able to get the engineered field done, get the flat work done, and get a building erected and dried in prior to winter. That is a hope that he has, and there hasn't been a whole lot of discussion about it. The last plan set that I got for the fire stations was a 50% complete, and I had some concerns over it with drainage and elevation. Some of the design I didn't feel took into consideration, as always, the alpine environment, and the civil engineer for the firehouse is checking to see if he can change elevations, essentially raising the building up a little more. And that was, I believe, 2 weeks ago we had that conversation, and I have not heard back yet. But I know with his funding, Chief Vance has some timelines as well. Did a great job in receiving the grant money to get the project started for the fire station, but he also, has that 2-year timeline to get it done. So, again, I think we all realize there could be the potential that we're going to have this workforce housing project going and the fire station at the same time.
Oh, Mr. Manager.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Pro Tem and Council. So I do think it may come to a point where prioritizations have to be determined, because these two projects look like they're starting to align in timeline. Director Epler, just for your information, on Monday, we received 95% plans from the architects. for the fire station. So unfortunately or fortunately maybe, you were on vacation. So you haven't seen those, but we did get them on Monday. And I'm anxious for you to look at them when you get home, not while you're on vacation. So there may be some prioritization. Keep in mind, our goal to cost cutting was to try and get Director Epler to do the site work in-house. On either project, I think, especially on the fire station project, if need be, we can still go out and hire somebody to do it. It's not our preference, but it could be done if timelines, because we thought the workforce housing was going to be ready before the fire station. So we thought Director Epler would have a chance to do the workforce housing and then jump over on the fire station. And because of these delays for the grant and everything, they just all of a sudden almost lined up. So it is a challenge that the council will have to decide where their priority is. I just want you to keep in mind that even though we would prefer to have Director Epler's staff do the site work for both projects, it doesn't have to be that way. We could hire a vendor to come in and do the site work.
So are there any other concerns we need to discuss?
Not on this one. There was a concern as far as cost of the homes that would be put off till next year. And in talking with the sustainability partners, we still need to come up with a schedule for those, if we go with the 5. And we still have to come up with a delivery schedule for the 25. And if we can establish that as soon as now, the price would lock in and would not change for next year. So that risk kind of got resolved.
Mr. Manager, anything else? Yes.
Just not recalling, how much time do we have to spend the money? The grant money, do we have a deadline to have to spend it by?
24 months.
24 months, okay, so we're still within that time.
We are.
We're still gonna be.
So
That's from June 10th.
From this June 10th,
Yeah.
okay,
So we have until June of 27 essentially to spend.
Right, 24 months.
so that's not necessarily a concern.
Right.
But it sounds like then where we're at is that there needs to be some more meetings between us and sustainability partners to scope this out in a 5 or 6 now, the balance later, and start working on those contracts as we're starting site work. That's really the next step to see if there's any hurdles to getting these 5 or 6 in. I think it's a great plan to do it. It's just, there's a lot of questions to ask about what the contract and the scope and everything and the timing.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem Council, my recommendation is that we ask Director Epler to move forward as soon as possible with putting in the infrastructure for workforce housing, because we're going to want to try and get that done as much as we can this year, whether we go with 5 or we go with 0. I would like to recommend that we have him set workforce housing as a priority and start it immediately. And then we can determine where the fire station, when it comes into play and how we can allocate resources and whether or not we need to go out to, I don't know how big that project's going to be. I assume will require an RFP for the site work for the fire station, which would delay that project, 3 weeks.
Okay, can we structure a motion then?
I'll give it a shot if you want.
Yes.
So on item A, I will make a motion to move forward with the plan to set a partial, whether it's 5 or 6 to be determined, number of housing units this year if possible, that we immediately begin work on site for all of the underground and infrastructure work, and begin work on issuing a contract or drafting the contract with sustainability partners to those specifications, that the balance of the units would be spring 26 with the site work hopefully completed in 25.
Mr. Manager, does that contain everything? And Rocky? All right, can I get a
Second that.
second?
Roll call vote on item A. Mayor Pro Tem Howe,
Aye.
Counselor Crane,
Aye.
Counselor Humbert,
Aye.
and Counselor Weeks.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Thank you. All right, item B, discussion approve workforce housing site plan.
Okay, so in front of you, you do have a larger scale map of the site plan, okay? And I think the council, I believe, has already approved it once, but I'm bringing it up again because there's the change of the location for the propane tanks, which I explained earlier. So basically, it's just asking your approval to move forward with what you have in front of you there.
I got one question, are we going to be putting a, sewer and water, manhole on, on this, where the road turns for future, properties in the back to tap into?
Director?
What it'll be is it'll be a tie-in point to as you'll see on the plans, it is a pressurized sewer system because the terrain actually falls from east to west. So that's why it was designed for this subdivision to have a pressurized sewer system.
Which would be like a system that probably can't be utilized by other properties, I
Well,
guess.
they would have to convert their system from gravity to pressure
Yeah.
and tie into the pressure main that we're going to have within our subdivision.
And if I may, Mayor Pro Tem, so there'll be a tie-in, so the property behind, if they want to tie in, they'll just be required to utilize a pressurized system. Yeah. If Zeb's wanted to connect, or if Alpine wanted to connect, they'd have to convert their system to a pressurized system.
Well, where Zebediah's is tied in is our tie-in point for a pressurized system. So Zebediah's is already tied in to a portion of gravity. But now that doesn't mean that if another subdivision goes in above, that their entire system would need to be pressurized. They could go gravity into a lift station that would then in turn go to into our pressurized system.
Okay.
At the point from that turn in the road to where it converts to gravity, just to the north of the backside of Zebediah's.
Uh-huh.
All right.
But as far as the water is concerned, yes, the 8-inch main will tee and go to the south, and there will be a tie-in point for the water.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions?
Well, I'll make a motion to approve workforce housing site plan for item B.
Second?
I'll second.
Roll call vote on item B. Mayor Pro Tem Howe,
Aye.
Counselor Crane,
Aye.
Counselor Humbert,
Aye.
and Counselor Weeks.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Item C, approve resolution 2025-53, tap fees for multifamily structures.
Mayor
Yes,
Pro Tem Howe?
Mayor.
Oh, go ahead, Kurt, if you want to.
Well, yeah, I just Clerk Strickland will assist me in reading the information on these resolutions. What we found in the with the schedule of tap fees is that there was some further language that was not included when it was previously presented. And basically what this is ensuring that all that information is there with the correct fee changes. And as I'm having a little trouble on my end, Clerk Strickland has graciously said she would assist me in reading and verifying these new fees and in this resolution.
So, Council, if you're ready, go ahead and proceed with that. The old charge for the construction and demolition was $21.60. The new rate at the 2.9% increase for the CPI is 22.23. The old rate for the construction demolition for heavy was 23.69. The new rate would be
I'm sorry, are you doing the solid waste or the multi-tap fees?
I'm doing the solid waste. Should I be doing the multi-tap?
Yes, you're an
Yeah.
item ahead.
I'm an item ahead. I apologize.
That's okay.
Let me grab the correct item. I had them out of order. So for this one, a paragraph was omitted. So the in paragraph that we are including as well as new fees. Okay, so for the bathrooms, the old fee was $744 and the new rate for one bathroom is gonna be $765.58. For the 2.9% CPI increase. For two bathrooms, it was $1,302. The new increase is gonna be $1,339.76. The rate for three bathrooms, well, the old rate is $1,861. The new rate is gonna be $1,914.97. For bathrooms is gonna be $2,000, $419. The new rate is gonna be $2,489.15. And finally, for five bathrooms, we are gonna have $2,977 as the old rate, and the new rate is $3,063.33. And then for the paragraphs that were omitted, there's a section here.
It looks like on the old resolution, neither paragraphs 1 or 2 appeared. So those must have gotten dropped between 2450 resolution and 2025-37. So we're simply adding that language back to the resolution.
Correct. I thank you, sir.
Yep.
Correct.
And that was for resolution 2025-53. I'll stand for any questions.
Okay.
No?
Can I get a motion?
Make a motion to approve resolution 2025-53, tap fees for multifamily structures.
Second.
Roll call vote on item C. Mayor Pro Tem Howe,
Aye.
Councilor Crane,
Aye.
Councilor Humbert,
Aye.
and Councilor Weeks.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Next item D, approve resolution 2025-54, solid waste transfer rates.
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem Howe, Council, due to an oversight on my part, the new rates were wrongfully calculated with the wrong old charge amount. So what we ended up doing in increasing this year by 2.9%, the calculation was done off of an increase to 2023 rates instead of 2024. So again, an oversight on my part, but what has been done now is it has been corrected where the old charge amount is the rate that we were under in 2024, 2025. And the new charge rates are accurate with an increase of 2.9%.
All right, Mayor Pro Tem Howe, Council, and Mr. Manager. I don't want Director Epler to take all that credit for the oversight. Part of that was on my end as well, but I thank you, Director Epler. So proceeding with the old charge amount for the construction and demolition, it was 2160. The new rate is going to be 2223 cubic yards. The construction and demolition for heavy, it was 2369. The new rate is going to be 2438. The old rate for white goods large was $10.30. The new rate is going to be $10.60. For white goods small, it was $5.15. The new rate, and EU, I apologize, I don't know what that is for.
Each
Each
unit.
unit?
Each
Thank you.
unit.
Each unit, I was just copying old resolution. All right, new rate, $5.30. Refrigerator units, Freon, was $45.35. The new rate is gonna be $46.67. For wood pellets, it was $1.03. The new rate is gonna be $1.06. For concrete, it was $77.25. New rate is $79.49. Tree stumps was $46.35. The new rate is gonna be $47.69. And I don't know if I clarified, this is at the 2.9 increase per CPI. Asphalt paving is $56.65. The new rate is gonna be $58.29. For tires up to 16 inches was $5.15. The new rate is $5.30. Tires ranging from 17 to 23 inches was $9.27, will now be $9.54. Tires greater than 23 inches was $15.45. New rate is $15.90. With mattresses, it was at $15.45, and the new rate is $15.90. And I will stand for any questions.
Okay. No questions?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2025-54 solid waste transfer fees.
Second.
Roll call vote on item D. Mayor Pro Tem Howe.
Aye.
Counselor Crane.
Aye.
Counselor Humbert.
Aye.
And Counselor Weeks.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Item E, discussion approve amendment professional services agreement for airport transfer service.
Yes, Airport Jim Howe, members of the council, Manager Weir. What you have in front of you is amendment number 1 for a professional service agreement for the airport sponsored transfer services. And so what's this contract amendment is proposed to Du Bois and King. Some background information is that the village is in the process of terminating a contract with Molson and Corbin, who was originally contracted with the airport to get us a sponsorship of the airport. Primarily, the reason is faulty work, lack of progress with the airport grants. As you know, we've been working quite a long time for that. Making suggested changes to the airport site plan, commonly known as Exhibit A, which is the airport layout plan, which includes all the meets and bounds. That has been submitted to the FAA for approval and been rejected at least 2 or 3 times. Unfortunately, the FAA has rejected their changes, and now we're nearing the end of the grant period, we still don't have an airport site plan approved by the FAA. So the village now requests the council to approve this amendment to Du Bois and King for professional services to take over the airport transfer service. And the amendment will add another $55,000 to the existing contract, making a total amount of $150,000 for the contract. The $55,000 that's added will cover the base map preparation, inventory of existing facilities, and updating the runway data table, as well as submitting those recommendations to FAA for review and hopefully approval.
Do we have any recourse on the previous vendor for non-performance?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem Council, we will not, this $55,000 is money we would have paid them. And we're now, I don't know that there's recourse for the delays they've caused, which is a couple of months in this process. But we will not be compensating them for the work that they did. And that money is now being moved from their contract to this contract.
All right, call for motion.
I'll make a motion to approve amendment to professional services agreement for airport transfer service.
Second.
All right.
Roll call vote on item E. Mayor Pro Tem Howe.
Aye.
Counselor Crane.
Aye.
Counselor Humbert.
Aye.
And Counselor Weeks.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Council.
Meeting